Okay, so yeah, my name's Roger. I'm a co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, as probably most people know. I do some videos, so here's another video. So I've been in prison for a while, so I haven't done a video for quite a while. I haven't done anything since October, the October Rebellion. So I was thinking about doing some sort of, March to Victory video post-October, but I don't really want to yet, not yet anyway. So I've got this idea about doing a video about hypocrisy, which is a little bit scary because it's outside my sort of comfort zone. And I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say, so hopefully I can just stimulate some debate. So it's not like I've got a really hard line, this is the way it should be. It's more like, here's some ideas. Because I think like a lot of people have come into Extinction Rebellion internationally, in the UK, are talking about it, and it's quite an emotional subject, to put it mildly, isn't it? And I think one of the reasons why it's really tricky is the bottom line is everyone's sort of complicit. You can't live your life without participating in the destruction of the next generation, and that makes everyone uncomfortable. For instance, like you've got to get in a car, you've got to use plastic. There's all these things, so it makes you sort of feel terrible on one level, and then you're not quite sure what to do about it. Okay, so the reason why I sort of got into thinking about this is I had this pleasure of talking to this A-list celebrity or whatever you call them. Anyway, this guy's famous in the United States. He's on Netflix or something. And it's a little bit embarrassing because I didn't actually know who he was. Anyway, he's really quite famous. And he was saying, I don't know what I can do for Extinction Rebellion or for the climate crisis because, obviously I'm really privileged and rich and, I live this lifestyle. And I was sort of going like, yeah, well, just get on with it because we're in a crisis and we need to be stepping up. And that sort of raises this issue of hypocrisy, I suppose. So my sort of proposition in this video is, so what? Because there's two ways to look at this. There's we're all hypocrites, so we should all stay at home and feel miserable, or we should just be going, okay, I am, but at least I'm doing something. And I think Extinction Rebellion, as I'll try and explain in a minute, is based upon this idea that we're not about judging ourselves, because at the end of the day, if we're judging ourselves, no one's actually going to do anything because people are too scared of being called out and all the rest of it. So I want to give a moral reason around why hypocrisy is okay, or at least getting on with stuff even though you're a hypocrite is okay. So the sort of moral reason is pretty obvious, and without being too Christian and everything, it's like an eye for an eye and the whole world's blind, as Gandhi said. So it's like, yeah, you're really crap, I'm really crap, we can all destroy ourselves, but at the end of the day, we're all dead. So that doesn't seem like a sensible idea, and it's this sort of thing, isn't there, that he without sin throw the first stone, is that right? I'm not very well up on the Bible, but anyway, it's the same idea, isn't it? Is we can all lay into each other, but the person that's not complicit, stand up first. Well, no one's going to stand up, right? Because on one level, we're all complicit. So that doesn't, that's no good. I mean, what I'm involved in Extinction Rebellion is mobilizing people, and so it's no good if people aren't mobilizing because of this moral problem. And that brings on to the sort of practical reason for why accepting hypocrisy is that you have to trust that people will change. And this is a fundamental idea, I think, in Extinction Rebellion. In other words, Extinction Rebellion is a little bit naive. It's a bit like giving people a chance to actually change and say, yeah, come into the movement. Yeah, you drive your car. Yeah, sometimes you take flights. Yeah, you're pretty rich, dum-bum-bum. But it doesn't matter. You're welcome. And you have to be sort of naive. And I think there's a point of view that says that naivety is actually quite good, because the opposite of naivety is cynicism. And all cynicism is don't actually do anything. That's the bottom line of cynicism. Well, that sounds cool, but if no one does anything, we're all fucked. So, you know, let's not be cynical. Let's be naive for a change. And, you know, that makes you vulnerable and what have you, but it means people can come in and, you know, make a contribution. And this connects obviously with the idea of judgment. And one of the big things in Extinction Rebellion is no naming and shaming. And this, I think, is like a massive challenge, because as everyone knows, you know, you can go to a lot of political meetings and before you know it, someone's telling you why you're not a good person. Well, you know, that's not helpful. Let's put it like that. And, you know, I found through my research and things, the biggest reason people don't get involved in social movements is they're scared of being called out. For a very good reason, because they are pretty shitty people maybe, but that's not the point. If you want to get people into a mass movement, you've got to be welcoming. You know, it literally means people come through the door and you speak to them, small talk, you know, a cup of tea, sit down, what's your story? This is what's happening, you know, on the climate crisis. These are the things you can do. Keep it like nice and straightforward. No one sort of telling everyone, you know, why they're sinners and all that routine. So there's a number of like practical ideas out of this. And I suppose what Extinction Rebellion is trying to do is be inclusive in a particular way, which is about not judging people. And I think there's like a practical arrangement here, which might be useful for extinction groups around the world, or if you're setting something up, is that really like, if you're joining Extinction Rebellion, what you've done in the past is not that important. In fact, it's not important, because the bottom line is whatever you've done in the past is the past. No one can change it, you know. And the same to a certain extent with your views. Like, your views aren't particularly that important. What's most important in Extinction Rebellion is your behaviour, how you treat people here and now, in this meeting, you know, on this demonstration, when you're sitting on the road. Are you treating other people with respect? You know, are you being kind to people? Are you listening to people? That sort of thing. Those are the things which like enable people to come into a social movement space, into Extinction Rebellion. And I think, I'm not sure about this one, but I think there's some sort of irony that the actual fact that we are hypocrites actually can lead to a greater humility. You know, it's not like saying, I'm great, you know, I'm Roger Hallam, I've got the answers now, you know, I'm a bit of a fucker too. You know, we've all messed up. You know, we're all trying to, you know, do the best we can. And that creates a certain humility. And this is like a different sort of politics where people are coming in from a humble point of view. You know, I'm not that great, but I want to make a contribution, rather than coming into the space going, hey, you know, I'm great, I know the situation, my politics are right, you've got to do what I say. You know, that's not really going to work very well. And I think this leads on to a few sort of points here, which is like Extinction Rebellion, as I understand it, and I think a lot of people understand it, is that it's a cultural and a spiritual movement as well as a political movement. And I'm not saying that because, you know, I'm trying to be cool and it's all these different things for different people. Like, there's a really practical, good reason why it has to be cultural. You know, it has ways of treating people, it has to be spiritual. It needs to be thinking about what it is to be human, what it is to die, what it is to live a good life. You know, these deep questions. By spiritual, I don't mean, you know, going to church and all that stuff. I just mean thinking more deeply about what the hell's going on. And I think the reason why that's important practically is that any political movement can't actually be sustainable unless it's got a clear set of ethics, a clear culture, a way of doing things, and ultimately this spiritual basis that brings people together. So it's not like we're trying to be clever by saying we want to be spiritual and cultural. Like, it's a smart move, and the political work we do isn't really going to work unless we have this like holistic approach. And I think this is one of the things that attracts people. And obviously this is really tricky for a lot of political people that criticize exercise. They don't really get that it's trying to do something quite deep and open and inclusive. And, you know, it's quite vulnerable as a result, because we, you know, don't really quite know how to do it, but, you know, we're having a go. And I think then this connects with this idea of fear. And I've got this idea like fear is our biggest enemy, you know, like, and there's an irony here, because obviously, like, a lot of fear leads to sort of vulnerability, but the vulnerability is actually our strength. So, you know, like for example, you know, I love doing these videos, but I sort of hate it as well because I'm sort of like on the spotlight. And, you know, I'm quite good at being criticized. I'm quite tough, but at a certain point, you know, I just want to go and curl up on a bed and disappear because I just feel really shitty about myself. And I think a lot of us are like this. You know, we're not like really hard-skinned, we're quite sensitive. But that sensitivity and vulnerability is actually our strength. And it's like the following day, you get up and you carry on, you know, and you learn to overcome that fear. And the more that we can support each other and create this supportive, non-judgmental culture, the more we can overcome this fear. And overcoming the fear, of course, is what leads us to resist in an effective way. And so look, finally, like, I think this connects with the whole big picture, right? So what's the big picture? You know, over the next 10, 20 years, the human race is going to have to decide whether it wants to slaughter itself out of a spasm of moral sort of righteousness. You know, that group's responsible for the climate crisis. That group's, you know, responsible for letting us down. Everyone's going to have a good excuse to literally kill each other because we're in this total mess. So we're going to have to make this fundamental choice of, are we going to destroy ourselves because we're all hypocrites, because we've all engaged in this terrible act of injustice? Or are we going to come together in an equitable way, of course, and resolve our differences on the basis of our common humanity? And that's a big choice, and I think it's really stark choice. You know, it could go either way. And I think Extinction Rebellion is like trying to, you know, in an imperfect way, suggest that, you know, loving ourselves and each other in a practical sense is sort of better than killing each other. It's a pretty no-brainer option, isn't it? But you can see the temptation, and you can see that temptation in politics all the time of just like othering other people and going down that downward spiral, you know, that we've seen so often, like in the 20th century, people hating each other and with great justification ending up shooting each other and all the rest of it. So the upshot of it is, just to finish off, is, you know, my message, this is my message, is don't hold back. You know, if you want to join Extinction Rebellion, it's an open movement. Come in, make mistakes, do what you want to do. If the group's, you know, getting a little bit judgmental, go and set up your own team. You know, make clear that in meetings, on the street, people respect each other, and that's enforced. You know, and if people aren't, then set up a new group, because this is crucial to the whole global mobilization situation. So the idea is people all around the world set things up in a non-judgmental way, go out, make loads of mistakes. Through making lots of mistakes, find out what happens best, share it with other people, and that's how we grow and become more effective. And that's not going to happen if we start judging each other, if we start accusing each other of being hypocrites and assuming other people are better than other people. So the message I want to put across, as it were, is in XR, hypocrites are welcome, right? Because in a fundamental sense, we're all in the same boat here. We're all human. And I don't know whether that quite makes sense, but that's it. Okay? Thanks.